Hello, host people, Kerstin here. Today I talk you through my first ride with Frankie. So this is a kind of evaluation what we have here. He's with me in training for 4 weeks at the time of this recording, and I worked mainly on the ground. So I lunched him, I did some work in hand. He has learned to flex the jaw, he has learned to yield the leg from the ground. And now I try to translate everything into the ridden work. So as you can see, he's not quite happy about it. He's swishing his tail, he's shaking his head. But actually I just try to do the same what I did from the ground up until now. So I give half holds upwards to mobilize his jaw. I try to flex him in the pole, and I come with my leg to let him yield with his hind feet. So I first started on the left rein, and he was shaking his head a lot, so I changed the rein to the right. Here he is a bit steadier in the mouth, so at least the flexion to the right seems to be a bit easier for him. However, when I try to let him yield my right leg, he starts banging down with his head. So in fact he's snorting here a lot, but I think it's not a relaxed snort, it's rather he's angry that he has to do something which is very uncomfortable for him. Here he's getting extremely crooked, he's pushing his butt in, completely ignoring my leg. So I think I have to do something new. So when I find out that one method is not really working, I have to be a little bit creative and try to do something new just to break the pattern. So I try to trot, but he is doing anything else but a trot. No? He's trying to tölt, pace, something in between. And since I do not want to train these extra gaits, I have to stop it immediately, which makes him even more angry. He's swishing his tail, very uncomfortable, it's getting crooked. I try now to put him in a leg yield position so that I get the diagonal pair of legs closer together, and in fact he manages to pick up 3 strides of trot, and then he's back into a tölt, saddle rack, or whatever you want to call it. So I have to stop it again. So my next idea is, let's try a canter. That is a bit more familiar for him because he used to work as a polo pony. He's very stiff, he's not really jumping through, he's entirely crooked, but at least he knows how to canter. However, when I touch him a bit with the whip on the butt to ask him for a little more jump through, he gives me that bug. Here, indeed, after the canter, he is in a trot for 3 strides and back into a saddle rack. So I have to try something new. Again, I try it out of the canter. Now he's losing everything completely. I think, no, that cannot go on like this. Let's break the pattern. Let's change the direction. So I write a turn and I try on the other side, because on the lunge he's actually a little bit better on the left rein. I try the same story. I try to pick up a trot. He is in a tölt. I have to stop. I try to bring him in a leg yield position to get the diagonal pair of legs closer together. Indeed, he manages to trot for 3 strides and he's back into a tölt. So I have to stop again. Then I try to canter. This is familiar. He canters a little bit, but not exactly how I wish to. Everything is all over the place. He's swishing the tail, very unhappy. So I have to find a new solution. Yeah, so the longer I would keep on riding like this, I would just train the wrong movement pattern. Wrong in the sense of I don't like it. For Frankie, most probably it makes perfect sense to run the way he's running. So I go back to the basics. So I go back to leg yield, shoulder in, just let him yield my inside leg, ask for some flexion in the pull, and he is getting really annoyed, shaking his head, and he wants to get out of it at all costs. But somehow I have to explain to him what I wish him to do, so I try to stay calm and persistent and keep going, letting him yield my left leg. Then something strange happens here. I give him a little bit of impulse forward and he's giving me this 3-4 strides of piaffe, which felt really bouncy and nice, but they were born out of so much tension that they are actually not useful. Here again, he's about to piaffe, but then he loses it completely. No, he says, that's it. I turn around, I don't want anymore. So I realized at this point I cannot keep going like this. I just have to switch to a new goal. So my goal is not anymore to trot. My goal is just to establish some relaxation so that we can stop this session on a good note. So here he's stretching nicely in a calm walk, and that is enough for today. So 10 weeks later, now we have Kate riding her horse, and it already looks a bit different. So we found out that it's easier for him to pick up a trot out of the walk when we simply give him 2 trotting poles. So as a cue. Without the trotting poles, he would easily pick up a pace, but with the trotting poles, he finds his rhythm quickly. And with a lightweight like Kate on him, he is able to trot and keep the trot, maintain the trot for a couple of rounds. So he's easily trotting along, tail is swinging. Kate is sitting in the movement with her upper body slightly forward, which helps him to balance in this longer frame. If I would do that with my 20 kilos more, he would easily overload his front feet. She can do a turn, changing the rein. Now she's on the left rein, and he's trotting just as nicely and rhythmical with her all around the arena. And she can also turn on circles, not exactly hitting the letters, but both seem to be happy, horse and rider. However, the frame is very long, yeah, so the back is very straight, the legs are not really bending under the weight. But for now, our goal was to establish the rhythm in the trot, and we did it. So next day I'm riding him, so I try him now to collect him a bit more. We have to shorten the frame. So if we want to ride him on smaller turns, he needs to learn to bring his hind feet further under the belly and to bend his haunch a bit more to get the wither and the front end up and get lighter in the front. And I try to establish this by riding the lateral movements, starting with the shoulder in. Now I switch to a little bit of haunch in along the diagonal, which would be the same like a half pass, but I do that in a very calm walk so that he has time to sort out his feet. You see that the connection with the bit is much steadier now. I can ride a volte out of the haunch in position, and out of the volte I ride a leg yield in flexion, in bend along the diagonal back to the track. So I can yield my right leg just as well as I can do let him yield my left leg in flexion in the bend, and out of this bend I can also ask for some kind of a large half pirouette. So that needs to be cultivated, of course, but at least he has learned the patterns. His mind is with me, and we build a good foundation for the upcoming work. So now it's time to ask for a trot. He picks up a trot here with me without the trotting poles. He's still very much on the forehand. He's not quite happy about the contact. He needs quite a handful of contact on the mouth to keep that trot. But we are just beginning this work, so I hope he's getting lighter. The more he is able to carry his weight on the hind feet, he should be light on the front as well. So I can also trot along and rising trot the other way around. Still a bit complaining about that new headset. We have some tail swishes here, but he learned how to carry me in the trot, even though I'm quite a bit heavier than Kate. So when I can go rising trot in on the right and on the left side, and I can also do smaller turns like here, coming on a circle without losing the rhythm. Then I can try a little bit of sitting trot. I do that first on the right rein where he's at the moment a little bit more consistent, and I do that along the fence. So let me come back to a hold. I change direction, and here I try some sitting trot. Still not quite happy with the contact, but he can keep the rhythm, and if it's only for a few strides, we can build on that. So I will try that again here on a bend line and trot, and he picks up a trot straight away. So I'm always happy when he's skipping the tölt and finds a trot straight away. And out of this more collected trot, I can then go back to a rising trot and give him a slightly more rein and invite him to extend the neck a little bit more forward downwards. He's still leaning very much on the inside shoulder, and therefore he's trying to get out of the contact every now and then, but he's getting a clue now how to bend to the right on a circle without losing the rhythm. So here the last part of the circle is getting a little bit better, a little bit more bouncy. And then I go back to walk because I feel he's getting pretty tired and I have to finish soon to end up on a good note. So yeah, I come back to walk, I give him the reins, and straight away he's stretching forward downwards, and we can finish this session on a good note.